I've had this idea in my back pocket for some time now, and I'm finally gonna make it a reality. Don't go away. Hello everyone and welcome to Fat Guy Productions. I am Paul, coming to you as always from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I've been sitting on this idea for some time now, and today it's finally going to hatch. It isn't often that I take a Hot Wheels Redline and make a custom out of it, but today is going to be one of those days as I tackle a Hot Wheels Jet Threat. This is going to be fun, and I sure hope it comes out as nice as it looks in my mind's eye. Anyhow, let's get to work. So what's better than the Jet Threat? Two Jet Threats. This first one was manufactured in 1971, and you can tell because it has a flip open part of the engine where you can look inside and see the turbine. A very, very cool feature. All later models of the Jet Threat don't have this, as they were eliminated in a cost-saving measure. So I've got this one. It rolls great, it looks pretty good, and it's got the opening hatch, which I love. It's just missing its glass. Other than that, it's really a nice Jet Threat. But I also have this Jet Threat. Now, I can't tell you exactly the year of this car, but it is sometime after 1973. As you can see, it doesn't have the opening compartment. It too is missing its glass, and instead of a Spectraflame paint job, it's painted in an opaque paint. This is the casting I'm going to be working on today. Now, as far as the original one, I'd like you to put in the comments below what you think I should do with it. I can leave it exactly like it is. I can clean it, put new wheels on it, put new glass on it, or I could strip it completely down and do a total restoration. So tell me what you think in the comments. But for now, let's put that one to the side and pay attention to this Jet Threat here. There's a lot of little weird things about this casting, and I'll show them to you as we go, but hey, like any other casting, it's gotta come apart. This car has two posts, one in the rear and one in the middle that is actually a post that comes from the turbine motor and then screws through the base. Once those posts are drilled off, I can go ahead and pry the car apart and see what we have to work with. So the body looks like it's in pretty good shape. However, there is a pretty major problem with it that I'm not going to notice until I'm completely done with this car. So I'm just going to have to live with it. Anyhow, we've got the motor, we've got the base, and I thought this was unusual, the way the motor is actually in two parts. The very front is molded into the base, and the rest is an entirely separate piece. Some clever engineering if you ask me. This I'll never understand. The front wheels are a straight axle that goes right through the wheels. The rear axles are cap-style wheels. I don't get it. Anyhow, the front's going to have to come off to be replaced, and the rear is going to stay, but it's sloppy, so we're going to put a little super glue on that later to straighten that up. So, as this isn't a 71 Jet Threat, and it was more than likely one of the Shell giveaway cars, I'm going to do a custom to this one today. So, I've drilled out the posts, and I'm going to go ahead and tap them so they'll take a screw that I can use to put the car back together later on, and then we can go ahead and get the paint off. I feel like it's been a while since we've gotten a really good goo drop, so my fingers are crossed here. Let's see how it goes. Bloop. Into the warm liquid goo it goes. Hey, you know, that wasn't terrible. It certainly isn't a top 10, but as far as goo drops go, that was pretty good. So, while the body soaks in the warm liquid goo, I will use a grinding bit in my rotary tool to try to free that front axle. It's crimped in, so I'm just going to grind away a little bit of the crimp, hopefully just enough that I can pop the axle out, and then I'll replace it with a reproduction axle. Yeah, from what I hear, I guess the idea is that Mattel was trying to use up surplus wheels, and so sometimes you'd get this, sometimes you'd get that, but I really just don't understand the mix of wheels. Anyhow, the base and the motor aren't that bad, so I'm going to just drop them into the mixture of lime away and water and use that to get rid of a little bit of the tarnish. Once that's done, I'll go ahead and wash them off really well, dry them, and then I can go ahead and take my beloved brass bristle brush to these parts. So, I always want the bases to be nice and shiny. But on this casting, I really want that jet turbine engine to just gleam. So I've got the flits out. I've got a polishing wheel chucked up. I'm going to put some flits on. I'm going to polish all of these parts up until they look like gems. You know, I've really had this plan for the jet threat in my head for quite some time, and I've been wanting to get to it. So I'm actually pretty glad to be at this stage today. I really like what I'm seeing in my head. Now, if I can just translate that to this little car, I'll be a happy man. So I'm going to go ham on this thing with the polishing wheel and the flits, and I'm going to get it really shiny. And once I'm done with that, I'll take a nice soft cloth and I'll just buff this thing out until it just gleams. Once I'm done with that, we can go ahead and protect it. So a while back I realized that I had this product called Renaissance Wax that I use on my silver coin rings. And it's a crystalline wax that museums use to put on things like jewelry and precious metals to keep them shiny and keep them from oxidizing. I had some to use with my coin rings. It should work perfectly on my bodies and other parts that I don't want to paint. So ever since then, I've been using Renaissance Wax on these pieces and haven't looked back. If you want some Renaissance Wax, you'll be able to find a link in the description below, or you can visit my Amazon store and you can find it there. Just go to www.amazon.com/shop/Paul Udelis and you'll be able to find almost anything I use that I get off of Amazon. So I'm going to go ahead and deal with the wheels now, and I'm going to start by taking off the caps from the rear wheels. I've picked out 2 rear cap wheels and 2 small hub front wheels, and I also have a hub straight axle that I'll use to replace the original axle. So I've got the new rears snapped on, everything's looking good, and now I'm just going to go ahead and put the new fronts onto the new replacement axle. Once I get them on, I'll put it in place, and then I'll use my CA glue to lock everything. My current absolute favorite super glue is the Loctite Gel Control Glue. I love this stuff. I love the dispenser and how precise it can be, and it is super, super strong. I love this stuff. Now, I am going to be trying something new out soon, and we'll let you know what we think of it once we get that in. Okay, so the base is polished and the wheels are back on, so we can just leave that aside to dry thoroughly, and we can focus on the body. So, first, we go fishing. Digging into the warm liquid goo to find the body and pluck it out. Then we'll run to the sink, give it a good wash, and we can get back and get to work on it. So again, as I mentioned, there's a pretty big problem with this body that I have not noticed. And it's just kind of one of those little things that would be really hard to notice unless you're actually holding two cars side by side. So I'm looking at it thinking it looks pretty good, especially considering I'm going to put an opaque paint job on this. So I've got it out of the stripper, I've cleaned it off, and now I'm just going to brass bristle brush it just to make sure it's nice and homogeneous and there's no flecks of paint left or anything like that, and then we can head to the paint booth. Okay, so over at the paint booth, since this was going to be an opaque paint job, I put a little primer on it. Now I'm going to use this Mr. Color paint that I had laying around. It is a semi-gloss Mr. Color gray, and I'm looking for a gray paint. So this was perfect that I had it here. And so yeah, believe it or not, this is a rattle can build. I will tell you what, if you're gonna do rattle cans, the Tamiya rattle cans, the Mr. Color rattle cans, they go on so beautifully and smooth. I just love these products. So yeah, I end up getting a great finish, and I can go ahead and set that aside to dry. Now, while the car's body is drying, I have turned to my computer and Adobe Illustrator, and I have made some military-esque decals for this car. I am gonna go fighter jet. So I've done an RS for Ramstein where I was stationed, and I've just picked some fictional tail numbers for it. I've made some blackout flag decals for it and a few other things, and now we're just going to go ahead and put all the decals on this body. I use the Sunny Scopa laser decal paper, and I'll tell you what, I really love this stuff. It doesn't take long for the decal to release from the backing paper. Dip it in the water for just the shortest amount of time and you're ready to go, and slide your decal right on. Perfect. Love it. So I have a lot of little decals to put on this car, so I'm going to fidget with that and then we can move forward. So after the final decal went on, I let the car sit for about 24 hours, and then I sealed everything up using a Createx semi-gloss clear coat. Just put a few layers down, got the finish I wanted, and left it aside to dry. Now that it's fully dry, I can do a little bit of detail painting, starting with the interior. I start off in the interior by using a little bit of Tamiya cockpit green to get a nice official military looking finish on the inside. And then when I'm done, I'm going to break out some Tamiya flat black XF1, and I'm just going to put in some dots of black to intimate gauges and switches and stuff. There's not a lot of visibility in here. You don't got to be really precise or anything. Just a few black dots here and there, and people will get the idea. Because this is a custom, I can pretty much do anything I want to it. And one thing I want to do is I want to bring out a lot of the molded in details that are in this casting. They really went whole hog on the motor. And so to make that pop, I'm going to use a little bit of my panel liner. I'm just going to touch it around. I'm going to do underneath the base. I'm going to do the engine and just really use that to bring out all those beautiful details. So all I'm doing is taking the brush with the panel liner on it and touching it to the sides of the little details and letting capillary action pull it through all the detail areas. Then I'm going to let it sit for just a little bit and then burnish away any of the excess with a Q-tip. I will be honest with you, this is the most excited I've been for putting together a diecast in recent memory. Because it's just something that has been in my mind and I couldn't wait to get a hold of. And so I'm feeling really good about things right now. So I popped on the window, put the base onto the body, and now I'm just going to go ahead and screw everything back together and we can see what we have done. So what was the secret flaw in the body that I mentioned? Well, I'll tell you what. The nose of the car is mushed down a little bit, and so it kind of pinches down on the front wheels a little. I didn't notice it until it was all together, and there's really nothing I can do about it now. You'll be able to see it in the glamour shots. No matter what, I hope you like it. Well, there you have it, my custom Hot Wheels Redline Jet Threat. Now, I'm so excited about this build, and my only regret is not noticing the bend in the body until the car went together. Oh well, not every project can be perfect. Still, I love how this one came out, and it really is now one of my favorite diecast cars. I hope you all love it too. If so, please give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss one of my Hot Wheel videos. Well, that's going to be it for today. Always remember, change is the hardest at the beginning, messiest in the middle, and best at the end. Until next time, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions saying be good.